the only thing that's consistent is just thirst traps.
Yep.
Have you ever thought, maybe?
Oh, yes. Have I thought? I mean, I only have OnlyFans up on this over here. I'm just researching. I'm just looking.
Assless
I'm just trying to see. Yeah. Just butt pics for me, probably.
Yeah, that's where all of this ends. It's like I wrote, thousands of hours worth of good jokes and sketches, and it all ends for Corp and OnlyFans.
Yes, literally. That's exactly how I see this going. That's why I tell people, I'm like, I'm probably going to retire to OnlyFans here pretty soon and just call it a career. I've had a good run.
Still teach sales, just naked. Instead of birthday cameos.
And serious in assless chaps. I just teach sales. Every time I turn to the whiteboard.
Okay, I'm skipping all the other stuff today. We have a really, really awesome guest. His name's Ross Pomerantz, aka Corporate Bro. We get to call him Corp now because we're homies. And we interviewed him about his new show, Sales Are Dope. It's on YouTube. It is a satirical workplace sitcom about a scandal-ridden startup where the sales team will do whatever it takes to hit their quota. I'm telling you, this show is... it's top notch, Kenny. I was shocked watching it, feeling like I needed more. I watched it all in an hour and a half. Quhat'd you think?
Yeah, so the show is ridiculous. Ross has been one of my favorite creators on TikTok and Instagram for quite some time. So when I saw that he made his own show on YouTube, I had to check it out. And you know that if you listen to this podcast, you're probably into travel and you probably spend a decent amount of time on planes. And we think that this is the perfect show to watch on your next plane. It's 90 minutes of runtime. It's on YouTube. You can crush the entire thing. And this is one of our best interviews. This guy is fascinating. He's super talented. And you'll see about 15 to 20 minutes into the show that he made a big bet on himself. He shocks Connor, Ann, and I, and super cool guy. And just go watch the show. He's about to cross 100,000 watches on YouTube for episode 1. And honestly, it's just really good. And the more that we support independent creators like this, the more that they get to just make their mark in the world and do interesting stuff. This is an interesting guy doing interesting and funny stuff. And we wish him all the best of luck in the world.
We always say that is the goal, to just end up in a job where you get to work with fun people, you get to work with your friends, you get to be creative. And he really did this amazing thing where he just made an obscene amount of content, grew himself into this like incredible... I mean, he's like a movement on Instagram. If you look at his followers and how loyal they are, and I mean, I'm now one of them, and every single time I open my Instagram, his story is at the top of my page. So please enjoy this episode with Corporate Bro, and I hope you learn a thing or two. Welcome, Ross. We're so excited to have you here. I want to start off talking about Sales Are Dope because it's so freaking good. It deserves to be on HBO good. Is that kind of the goal? Are you kind of like shopping it around and trying to get it on streaming services? Because it needs to be there.
Yes. The short answer is yes. That's the hope. I don't exactly have the representation to get it there at the moment. So that's kind of one of the roadblocks right now. I think one of the hardest transitions to make in this entertainment game right now is from what people perceive as a content creator to something more legitimate, and I put that in quotes because, the world there's a lot of content out there, and a lot of streamers, especially right now, are not taking huge risks on anyone or anything. And so that's the goal. The goal was to shoot this series and hopefully it gets picked up, or my bar is even lower than that. My bar is that someone comes along and says this deserves a second season and we want to fund it. I don't care if that's Netflix or, some old dude who's just like, I like creative projects. I don't give a shit.
That's what we're looking for. I'll be on the lookout for old dudes investing.
Yeah. If someone just like wants to throw away some money in, creative endeavor, I'm happy to light that cash on fire.
Okay, if you haven't seen it, he's just being humble. It's not throwing it away. It's so well made. Like, we'd love to kind of get into, how this thing like came to life. So first of all, how long did it take you to write the script? Was this like a passion project for a while, or did it come to you in your sleep?
Like 3 years, probably 100 iterations.
Wow. That's amazing.
And it as someone who was never able to fully spend all day, every day working on it, I think I genuinely believe Hollywood could have spun this whole project up and done it in like a month, but again, they're professionals.
That's all money too, so, isn't it?
It's all money, right? Yeah, exactly. Money. And so I think we shot a pilot. We shot another version of what a show could look like in 2019. That was a huge learning experience for me of like what not to do. And I hired a production company on Fiverr or something, or like Upwork, one of those, my God. And a director on that. And it's just like, what? I didn't know where to go. Like, again, this process.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. That's why, because like, I don't know. I was like, I got to do this more legit, and and the bar was low. The bar was low from what I was doing before, and so we got what we paid for. We actually fired our director after the first day,
nice,
and which was this was like while I was in business school. So again, we spent, this is right over Thanksgiving. We spent we spent 4 days in LA, 3.5 days in LA, shooting this thing, and it was so bad, like. And I didn't know. I was like, oh my God, there's all these people here, like cameras and lights and like production design. And like now fast forward to what we just did. I'm like, that was so amateur hour. And even what we did just now was like somewhat amateur hour, but it was like a huge step in the right. We didn't have any sound design. We didn't have any music in the first one. We shot it a lot like The Office, kind of mockumentary style. So as soon as you do that, you're compared to The Office, and like, you're screwed from the start. And so even before that, I took the script to someone who runs the Academy of Art in San Francisco. Cause again, like, I don't know where to go. I'm like, maybe I get some students, someone help me with this thing. She, no joke. She eviscerated me for 45 straight minutes on the, like, this is one of the worst things I've ever zero. No. Yeah. Like, if this was a TV show, I would change the channel. Not a single one of these characters is redeeming. I hate everything about this. Like, that blunt for 45 straight minutes. And I even made a joke. I was like, so what didn't you like? And she was just like dead silent. She's like, I really just didn't like all of it. And so at the very end, I have a Dear Jaina, go fuck yourself on everything I'll ever do forever. At the end of the credits, I have like a little Easter egg there. It's just like for Jaina. And I sat there and took it. So that's how, like, it's been a long process to get to this point. A lot of people have like been a part of it. A lot of people have touched the script in some way, just like comments and jokes. At some point, you just have to put a line in the sand and say, this is when we're going to shoot, and this is when it needs to be done by, and whatever you got, it's done. And I think I could have worked on it forever.
That's awesome.
You also have to be open to people ripping it apart for it to become what it is, right? That's a hard thing to accept. I just give me some constructive criticism. Don't just like rail me for the sake of it. For, there was nothing about like, here's what I might change. Here's how I might think about it. I was like, how do you run this department? And there's a word for people like her, and she was being it. And I was just like, yeah, well, who's ready to get canceled? I've never experienced something like that, even in my professional life, even being in sales and being destroyed by prospects on the phone. Like it was my real Hollywood moment in like the least Hollywood way. It was awful. It was awful.
So Ross, so just for those of the audience that haven't seen it yet or haven't heard of it, could you give us like the 60-second rundown of what our Sales Are Dope? And then I would love to tell you the story of how I got my wife into it. Yes,
I definitely want to hear that. So to everyone out there, because none of you have heard of it, it's SAD, Sales Are Dope. It's a 8-episode. I call it a TV series. It's on YouTube, but it was written to kind of be a TV series. It is short form though. So every episode is 9 to 17 minutes. One episode, the last episode, 17 minutes. So full runtime, 8 episodes, 90 minutes. And it is about a Series A sales team. The company's called Suckle. No one quite knows what they do, but it just
Great
follows.
Name too.
Yeah. That was an actual aha moment. Like that's absolutely what we're going with. But yeah, written, produced by me and friends and family, and some professionals. That's why I look
amazing. Yeah. So about maybe a week ago, I was laying in bed and I woke up at 4:30 in the morning, and I was just on like Twitter trying to fall back asleep. Twitter, or maybe it was Instagram, and I saw your
that'll
post.
help you fall asleep. If something's pissed me off, that'll be fired up. I can fall right back asleep.
Yeah, honestly, the worst, right? I think it was on Instagram, and I saw one of your posts. I've been following you for a pretty long time. My wife actually turned me on to your account, and then
she sounds beautiful.
Yeah,
she sounds really smart and funny.
Smart, funny, the entire thing. Yeah. And so I was like, well, I'm not falling back asleep, so let me just go check out the show. And about maybe like 4 or 5 minutes into it, I just started like laughing from my stomach, and my wife is like passed out asleep. And she wakes up and she's like, what the fuck? And I'm like, listen to me. You love Silicon Valley. Like, she loved the TV show. We were obsessed. And I was like, if you love Silicon Valley, you're going to fucking adore this. And we put it on at like 4:45 in the morning, and we crushed like 4 episodes and then fell back asleep.
Wow.
Yeah. It's, and there's definitely like Silicon Valley elements to it. Were you a Silicon Valley fan? Was that any inspiration for the show? Because it's like the untold story of the other side of the business, the side that really powers startups. A lot of startups want to be like product led, but honestly, it's a bunch of salespeople making revenue and just like making it work.
Exactly. I mean, in our film Bible, the first line is exactly what you said. This is the story Mike Judge did not tell in Silicon Valley. It was definitely inspired by the fact that it was untold. Because I watched that show, I thought it was great. It was just very interesting to me being in the sales world at the time. I was like, how are you not talking about the largest group of people in the Silicon Valley for longer than 2 episodes? They had like Jan the Man, and they're like, I don't know. They kind of hit the same joke 50 times in 3 scenes. But I don't know. I didn't want it to be Silicon Valley. I didn't want it to be Workaholics. I didn't want it to be The Office. And I think that's where our director of photography like came in and just made something different and interesting and artistically unique. And that was like the challenge was like, how do you make people dialing for dollars interesting? How do you make it fun and like engaging that isn't just so fucking boring? And that was all them. That was them. Just like, I remember after the first day we watched the dailies, and I was like, and dailies, for anyone who doesn't know, it's just like, what did we shoot that day? It's just the raw film. Like, you can just go back and watch the scenes. And I was like, holy shit, this looks really, really cool. This is nothing like what I expected, but they brought in a lot of elements, the freeze frames, the slow-mos, the like really unique moving camera shots. It was single camera, which, is great for a cinematic look. And, it does hurt you from an improv standpoint for comedy. But it does, if nothing else, you're not going to watch that and be like, oh, this reminds me of The Office, other than the fact that it takes place in The Office. That's like the lowest common denominator. It's like, oh, it's like The Office, but like sales. Well, in that it's an office, like it's about office culture, sure, but it's not.
Yeah. And one of the things that I really love about the show too is the characters are so good. Just like everyone's different. The characters don't sound the same from like the lines that they say. So one of the things that I always like, I'm a big Sorkin fan, but the more that you watch his stuff, like every character sounds the exact same. So they all start like having the same speech patterns and things to say and wit, and your people sounded so differently. And I thought that the writing was really, really good. Thanks. Where did you come up with the inspiration for the characters?
I mean, that was just real life. And the characters evolved a fair amount. Like the Travis character, who's our social crusader when convenient, kind of Gen Z, who's still, rails lines of Adderall. Like he originally was supposed to be like Corporate, who's the main character. Again, I'm going to speak like nobody's ever watched this.
Sure.
He was supposed to be a mirror of Corporate, but slightly better. So in the pilot, for example, and this is true to me, like I was a D3 baseball player. Travis, of course, was a D1 basketball player. Like everything Corporate tries to do, Travis was supposed to be moderately better. But what ended up happening was Travis actually felt more likable than Corporate, which wasn't the point. He was supposed to be like the douchebag. And so we kind of reworked that entire character for this version to say, okay, let's make him kind of a whiny bitch. Let's make him like, someone you just want to punch in the face. And, that's what it turned out to be. And so it worked. So Pfister, the sales manager, he's probably the most outlandish. Like, I'm not going to say not believable, but he's like a caricature in a lot of ways. And so it allowed everybody else to kind of be the straight man, straight woman, kind of play off of this lunatic. We didn't want him to be Michael Scott either, was the thing. Yeah. And I think you always run up against that with like, the manager who wants everyone just to be happy and like wants, everything to be kumbaya and so forth. So I would criticize us a little bit on that when it got a little close to Michael Scott, but I think they're all just prototypes of people I've run into in the sales world. Katie, like the lone wolf. I meet people and I'm like, you are Katie. Like they are just that person. So, I wish I could say I conceived them just in my mind, but no, they're all inspired by people I've worked with.
That was the same thing I thought when I watched it. I was thinking of Travis and I was like, it's kind of wild how this guy has so much depth in the episode where like his dad treated him badly. So now he's just a guy pressured by accomplishment and like being worth something. And I was like, damn, you did all of that in like 3 minutes.
Maybe they don't want to hit him anymore.
Yeah. I kind of, you feel bad for him. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Exactly. And as far as like putting a show like that together, because that would be so much fun to create, like what is like the cost of that kind of production look like?
Yeah, what are you in for here?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think Connor, I know you're an actress and like you've been around production, and so like this may be more. This number may mean something to you. I say this to people and I get opposite reactions. They're like, oh, that's like really expensive. Or people are like, ooh, wow.
That's why I'm curious because it's like the perfect amount of time as well.
What would you guess? What would you guess? How would we guess?
Oh my God. Okay. Well, none of these people are from Fiverr, just to clarify in this.
None of these people are from Fiverr.
We can't work backwards.
No, our production team is, a lot of them went to AFI, if that means anything to you. It didn't mean anything to me for a while.
Yeah, okay.
Good film institute.
Like 50 grand?
Oh, Queen. That's like an episode.
Queen.
Yeah. I was actually...
That's what our pilot cost.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was actually thinking before I heard that, I was thinking that he was in for like $250,000 to make it. But
double that.
Wow. $500,000 to make it. And did you self-fund this? It looked like you had some sponsors, right? Or like some people that were supporting.
I self-funded about a third, little less than a third. So it gets to the point. So our budget originally was $463,000. And it's like, that's what we can get this done for. Part of that was COVID precautions. Like you had to, there was a lot of things that were like, if one person had gotten sick, the whole production would have been ruined. Like I couldn't afford permits. I couldn't extend actors. I couldn't do all that shit. So we had like testing protocols and so forth. Even with that. So like I didn't get paid. Natalie didn't get paid. Raj didn't get paid. Like a lot of the actors and like extras didn't get paid because they were friends and family who just wanted to be a part of it. Like the bar scenes that we shot, the cantina we shot, I know the guy who runs the bar. He let us come in there for 3 days and shoot for free. Like it was just like calling on all friends and family favors. Like this is truly run like a bootstrap startup here.
It's amazing.
It ended up being a little over 500 because you get to a point where, for me personally, I'm like, I may never get to do this again. I'm not going to leave something on the table when the production team comes to us and say, look, we need this thing. You can get away with it, but it's like $1,500 here, and it's like that happens 20 different times. Like it's like $2,000 here. We want to like recut it this way. I was like, I wanted to recolor the whole show as well. Like we went away from this original color, went to like a very natural looking color, which looked bad. I was like, I want a sadness look. I wanted like a unique look here. Another $4,000, right? So just like all these things, time, money, it just kind of adds up. And I was like, again, I may never do this again. I don't want to regret something because I got pissy about like a couple grand here and there, and that just adds up. So
yeah,
that's where it ended up.
Tell people what sadness means.
So sadness stands for, it's an acronym. Sales are dope. Never ever stop selling. It's like the way I pitched it. It's like ABC, always be closing. Except this brings in the real truth of sales, which is it sucks and it's sad and it's painful. And a lot of times you know what you're doing. You're being persistent. You're being annoying. But God, sales are dope when you close a deal. There are a few feelings like closing a deal on this earth. Truly, I have friends who are like founders and they've just closed their first deal and they're like, I've never felt like this in my life. And I'm like, welcome to the addiction. Your heart shrinks and it feels great.
Also, I just want to say, when you're saying, well, no one's ever seen it. I was talking about you the other night. I was telling my friend like, oh yeah, I have like a guest on the podcast on Friday. Super excited about it. And I said your name and he was like, oh my God, Have you seen Sales Are Dope? I'm obsessed. He's like, Corp
Well,
is
again, hang out with cool people. You guys seem to hang out with the coolest people on earth. So.
I'm just saying. He was like, Corp sent me a cameo for my birthday.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, you know,
people know.
For the people.
Okay.
Yeah. There are at least tens of us who know about this. You know, we'll get there. I mean, that's the biggest thing. I think, like, you know, the budget for me was always like production, creative. And then you just hope it's good enough that like people will share it, people will talk about it. And because there was no post production or no like distribution plan. I had none. It was like my audience, Natalie's audience. And you find what's really fascinating to me. And like, I'm guilty of this, and this is not a knock on my friends. I have a ton of friends who haven't watched it yet. I have a ton of like family who haven't watched it yet. And people will be like, you know, I got to finish Succession and Ted Lasso first, and then I'll dive into it. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, it's 90 fucking minutes. Like,
yeah,
I thought you loved me, but okay, fine. Like, I'm the same way. Like, Squid Game came out. It was a cultural phenomenon. I was just late to the game. I had other shit I was doing. It's not like I don't take it personally, but it is a really interesting psychological experiment of how do I get into people's minds? Like, I'm vying for time. It's not just like Netflix time. It's just lifetime. You know, they could watch it on a Peloton. They could like put it on like in their, you know, on their commute to work or something. But it's like, how do I make them make that choice? And so I feel like a salesperson, and I'm running a whole sales process. I'm doing a whole thing next week. I'm cold calling people. I'm doing a drip campaign. I'm dead ass serious. I have all this software I just got. I'm running a full on campaign next week, like a salesperson, going to be cold calling sales leaders.
Dude, we will be.
That's amazing.
We will be your SDRs for Sales Are Dope for sure.
Yeah, I need a whole pack of SDRs of just sales savages, heartless, soulless sales savages to sell this thing.
I was hardcore supposed to be working the other day, and Kenny's like, yeah, just share your screen and show me the thing. And Sales Are Dope was up, and he's like, are you watching Sales Are Dope in the middle of the workday? I was like, yeah.
No, there's a Google Doc here. I swear I was working on. It's fine.
No. I've done a lot.
It's blank. It's blank. I'm ideating.
Yeah. If they say share your screen and it's blank, oof.
Yeah. Well, you know, at least you were making the wrong choice. As far as I'm concerned.
Exactly. I think so.
I'll allow it. You're like, I'm researching for the podcast. What's your problem?
It's for the pod, dude.
It's for the pod.
It's exactly what I said.
It's for the pod.
That's her most common excuse too. Like I'll see something weird. Like, what are those 3 tabs? She's like, oh, it's for the pod. Close. It's like, wait, what? I thought it was for the pod.
Well, you know, you just got to trust her.
So we are actually hiring our first sales team at AllFly. And what advice do you have? We're like super green. I've been all founder led sales, first sales team, first sales hires. What do you got? Because it looks like, you know, from your background, you actually have a pretty rich history in sales, went to Stanford Business School, that whole thing. So I would love to hear your kind of like professional advice on the first sales team.
Well, I think I need to kind of understand the product, who you're selling to, like what is our ACV? I need to understand, can I get the landscape here? Like, who are we selling to? What's our sales like cycle length? What's that look like? What are the deals we're closing? Talk to me.
Live advice.
Live advice. All right. So we run a startup called AllFly. Yes. It is a corporate travel booking platform. Okay. And we primarily sell into meeting planners. So for example, say that like Apple is going to run a offsite for their top 100 salespeople. Sure. They would hire a meeting planner, and that meeting planner would take care of the hotel, the venue, the food and beverage, the whole thing. And then sometimes Apple, if they don't have a travel solution in-house, they'll be like, hey, meeting planner, what do you have for me in terms of airfare? How am I going to get these 100 people from all over the country and world to Cancun? Right. And so that's where we step in. So we work with meeting planners and event companies to be like their trusted airfare partner. And so our sales team is going to be doing a lot of cold outreach and then going to a lot of events to meeting planners, event companies, incentive houses. And basically the sales pitch is if we become your trusted air travel partner that you refer your clients to, we will give you X amount of dollars per ticket that you sell. And then we'll give you like a free flight for so many tickets as well. So there's a little bit
that's the incentive for the sales rep or the incentive for the event planner to use your platform?
For both. Yeah.
Both. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. And so are you then competing against like SAP Concur? Are you competing like against some
Correct,
behemoths, or are you like, okay.
We're competing against Concur. Yeah. So like the old legacy interface from, 2003, that's our competition.
Oh man. Yeah. spoke at SAP Concur in 2019, and it was definitely old school environment.
It still looks like that. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, it's
frozen in time.
I guess I don't know like where those event planners, corporate events folks like necessarily hang out. But to me, it's like the question for me first is like, do you need a head of sales, or do you just need two like young, like ready to grind type, more junior folks?
Ready to grind.
Yeah. Right. Like, the other question is like, is someone spent enough time in the industry that they've got the Rolodex, they've got like the people they can hit up and like lock a few of these down just right off the bat, you know? And so I don't know from your standpoint how much experience you're looking for in a rep. Like that's the other piece. Do you want someone who comes with a classic sales background, or do you want someone who kind of like figures? There's a lot of companies now, PLG companies, like product-led growth companies, that are hiring like former teachers or like bartenders, people who are just had to deal with a lot worse shit than someone like screaming at them on the phone. And like, because they don't want the classic sales checkpoint habits, because it feels old school. It feels like pushy and weird. And so, I mean, to me, I think it's go find someone super young. It's find someone with little experience and then train them your way and explain it your way. I don't think you would need to go spend like an OTE, like 240 OTE on some mid-level sales rep who's sold at Concur. You know, I think, and this is not a knock, like the platform to me seems probably pretty intuitive. It's not terribly technical. Like,
simple. Yeah.
You don't need an engineer minded salesperson who is typically very expensive. And so for me, I'm hitting a college campus, honestly. I mean, there's a lot of people looking for jobs right now. The advantage for you is that there's a lot of salespeople out of work. So you could tap into the old, like, you know, I don't want to say job boards. I would more try to find someone through a referral. That's always going to be a better hire, because you may churn and burn someone. That's the risk of a young person, is that they're like, this sucks. This is hard. This is scary. You know? So, I mean, if it's me, I'm probably working my network, trying to find someone with 1 year, maybe 2 or 0, and taking that risk and underpaying them, and recognize that you might have to get rid of them quicker. That's the hard part for you, is like, if you hire someone and they're not there, you got to fire quickly. Like at your stage, like every hire is incredibly important and costly, you know? Yeah. But I also wouldn't overthink the like sales experience. Like people can learn this. You're trying to find EQ, high EQ people. That to me is always like, I call it, like, I don't call them, a lot of people call them athletic nerd, right? Someone who's like at least curious, kind of has the athletic mentality, and like can handle some adversity and some suffering, some sadness.
Some sadness. Like, of sadness, yeah.
You just send them sad and say, watch this, and say, do you still want to work here?
Yeah, honestly. Like
our
honestly,
training materials are just.
Yeah. I am not bullshitting you. I am honestly going to send them Sales Are Dope, and I'm like, I need you to take 90 minutes. I need you to watch this. So you're going to be getting at least 2 more views in the next week. Those 2 views came from us.
Great. I'll keep an eye on the metrics.
I'll just remember
my
that
dashboard
when you see it.
My YouTube dashboard. But yes, I mean, it's a hard thing to do, to hire like a salesperson and get it right. Like, just the reality is, a lot of people aren't a fit. They just aren't. And you can't see that on the surface. And that's why so many salespeople are treated like firewood, for good reason and then bad reason. It just kind of sucks. There is no great way to hire a salesperson, because so much of it is nuanced and so much of it is an EQ thing that's really hard to measure.
What's the most money you've ever seen a salesperson make in a single year?
I have a buddy who almost got to 2 million in a year. He was like 1.8 something change.
What was he selling?
He had himself a year. He was selling Internet of Things, Connor. Have you ever heard of it? Internet, and then there's things.
Internet things or things?
Internet of Things. No, so it's the IoT world is like, think of like smart fridges. Like, why do I need apps on a fridge? Like, what they sell is sensor tracking stuff. So fleet management. Every single big wheeler you see around the country has 1,000 sensors on it, talking about like the temperature, the mileage, the tire pressure, the tire temperature inside the cabin. They sell like the things that track all of that stuff. And then there's some command center, you know, in the middle of the country that is tracking all 20,000 of their big wheelers that are just like going around the country. And so they sell that type of stuff, fleet management. And like, it's not sexy. And the people you're selling to are like middle American, just truck owning, you know, old school folks who want you to fly out to Nebraska and meet them. And then they spend $20 million, you know, like it's big money stuff. And then like still very old school kind of industry.
That has to be sick closing that, like just closing that sale and you made like $100,000 in commission and you're just like, oh my God.
I mean, part of it in all fairness, he is great. He is a very good sales dude. He's one of my best friends, but he also, so much of sales is right place, right time in a company's in a company stage. Like this place, they IPO'd too. He probably made 15, 20 million just based off the time he was there at the right time and like how aggressively the stock price is just blown up. And he gets, you know, being the best guy when big accounts come in, they're like, we can't have someone fuck this up. Like he'll get them brought to him,
Interesting.
You know, which is a great situation to be in.
Yeah.
Yeah. I, one of the things in like looking through your professional history, you have a crazy from like baseball to Stanford. And then, I want to zero in on Corp Capital. Yeah. Because that's super interesting to me. Can you explain how that came about and what that is? Because, and first of all, the website is sick. Thanks. But yeah, just explain Corp Cap because it's very, very interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, Corp Cap is, the official term would be an angel investing syndicate. And so for those out there who like aren't deep in the angel investing game or just like venture capital investing game, there's kind of two models. There's like a classic fund, which would mean I raise $1 million. I've got $1 million in a bank account that I then allocate however I want. And all my LPs, all the investors who make up that million, you know, they don't really get to choose which things I invest in. They've already trusted me. They give them the money because they're like, oh, Corp knows what he's doing here. So like, let's trust him. That's one model. And in that model, there's two ways you get paid. It's the classic 220, they call it. So 2% management fees. So, you know, if it's $1 million, 2% is just going to me as a salary. And then 20 is this thing called carry, which is just the profit basically. So 20% of all profits will also go to me. So you kind of think of like all profits are 20% discount on if you're an LP who's invested. Now our model is a little different. We don't do a management fee. Every deal we bring is individual. So we use like this, they're called SPVs. Basically, you choose whether or not you want to invest in. I bring it to you and my partner, Matt, who I met at Stanford, very interesting dude. But basically we get these companies, they pitch us, or we see these companies are super interesting. We go out to the founders like, hey, can we get a little allocation? And we're doing small checks. Like in the VC world, we're doing like 100K to at the most like 200K. And then we have to go sell our LPs. So we have like 500 sales folks, go-to-market folks. And you just have to be like an accredited investor, just be, as if that's like an easy thing to do. But like that is the only like bar to get in there for us. It's just that's a legal thing. There's accreditation. So that's, you know, it says that you can afford to fail a few times if you want to like make these risky investments. And so then we say, we got 100K allocation, ready, set, go. And it's like a merch drop, you know, where it's people, the minimum is $1,000. So some people are just like, hey, I'm putting 1,000 in every deal. And that'd be the same model as a fund. It's like diversifying yourself across these. Or some people might say, I'm not really interested in that one, but I will put 20K in this one. And they'll go like all in on one. So from our standpoint, from Matt and I's standpoint, the risk is lower on an individual basis. One may fail, but we're in all of the deals, you know, by our own structure. Our rule is if we bring in an investment, we are investing in it ourselves personally. A lot of syndicate managers won't do that. They're just like, I'm the connector between these deals and my LPs. And I'm not going to take any personal risk, but my way I get paid is if this is successful, like then I'll get paid. To me, it's kind of a shady thing to do. And just like, because they just get paid on carry. I'm like, put your money where your mouth is, but that's how it works. So we typically invest in SaaS kind of sales led type companies. We're obviously like everyone else kind of vetting a lot of AI companies coming up, which is, you know, indisputably the future. And so that's kind of how it works. People make a choice whether they want to invest or not. The problem is Matt and I will get fired up about a company and we won't get enough interest. And that's kind of an embarrassing thing where it's like, oh, we can't even hit like the 80K minimum to make this happen. That's happened to us once. And it's like, so now we got to be really deliberate and really like have our sales hats on. And also the economy fucking sucks. So people aren't exactly throwing away money right now.
And how do you guys get deal flow?
So the advantage for us is that having gone to Stanford, a lot of our friends are at every major venture capital firm in the world. And so,
that network.
You know, the other piece is, the network. And then the other piece is like through Corp Bro, I get a lot of people hitting me up. Generally, they're like, hey, like we want you guys to be affiliated with us. Like it's a good brand exercise for them. You know, when they launch PR announcements, you know, our group of people, investors will go interact with that and kind of help blow things up for them. And I think I've gotten to a point which is very flattering, is people care what technology I'm interested in. They care like what I endorse. And by investing, obviously that's like a pretty big endorsement of putting money in there. And so I guess I forgot to, or neglected to mention, like the original point of Corp Cap was so many salespeople, they have a high risk tolerance, they make a lot of money, and they have no access to investing in private companies. They all think you got to work somewhere for 4 years, 1 year cliff, every incremental month you get shares. And they're like, well, that sucks. Like, how can I be in these other early stage companies? This is how, you can invest in private companies. It's still highly risky, especially anyone who's invested like the last 2 years has gotten, for lack of a better term, fucked. And that's all of us. That's all of us, it's a super long-term play though. Like you have to think at minimum 5 years, more realistically 10 years, that any of this is going to become anything for anyone, So
jeez.
It's fun, but
your DMs must just be freaking flooded with people asking you for advice
too.
and shit.
Hot
oh my
dudes,
God.
Hot dudes hitting me up. Like,
so many hot dudes. So wait,
so many hot dudes like, hey man, I just want to grab a beer with you, bro. And like, I feel like we'd be boys. And I'm like, maybe, but that'd be a lot of beer.
I just want to pick your brain, bro. For the question that I'm sure a lot of people ask you, like, what are like your favorite technologies and processes to help with the typical day of a sales savage?
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to just like pitch a couple companies that I'm using. So part of this sales process of me pitching sales are dope. I think for a salesperson, and like, the first one is Apollo, which is a competitor of SalesLoft or Outreach, which is your sequencing tool, your email tool, upload all your contacts, put them on a drip campaign, that type of thing. Very easy to manage, very like intuitive. The other one that I'm using is ZoomInfo, which is where I get the contact information of a lot of folks. Helps like list building. It helps contact building.
Is that like an enrichment tool?
Yeah. I mean, it's more just like they've got everybody's contact info, like cell phones, websites, LinkedIn's, work emails. It's obviously not perfect. They have like kind of a confidence measurement tool built in. They also have some sequencing built in there too, but I could never. That's an enterprise tool. I could not afford it. So they just like help me with the list and so forth. And then another one's called Orum, ORUM. And that one is like a dialing tool and helps kind of like phone call management. Allows you to make multiple calls at once. And like whoever picks up, like it routes you that way. But I think if I'm like the ultra basic salesperson, to me, it's like, I also use Salesforce. Like any CRM is a great thing to have if you're a salesperson. Google Docs or Google Excel sheets kind of suck. When you grow up, then you get a CRM, and that's kind of how it works. But if I'm starting out today and I don't have stuff, it's LinkedIn Sales Navigator and probably like Outreach or Apollo or SalesLoft. Like that's pretty much it. And then I'm researching everyone on LinkedIn, finding their email addresses, and loading them up into that. Like that's my bare minimum.
Pro tips.
So pro tips. Yeah. That's my bare minimum. Yeah. I mean, calls are not working as well these days. I mean, even emails are a lot harder. I think like we're going to move back more to a, unfortunately, marketing led kind of like selling and then in-person.
You did not just say that.
There's the marketing contempt.
I was just
edit it. Just edit. We'll fix it in post.
I'm going to tell the people. So you are.
Don't tell anyone that.
Should I tell them? I'll tell them. You're like notorious for dogging marketing, for taking revenue, and credit should go to sales. But I loved like in Sales Are Dope, Corp just goes fucking ballistic when like a marketing generated lead gets stolen from him. Like, what's your stance on marketing these days? Are we still shitting on it? What do we think?
Of course we are. Of course we are. Of course we are. My issue with marketing isn't that marketing shouldn't exist. It's just that marketing should be held accountable in the way that sales is. And I always think that's like the hardest. It's like this very hard thing to do. Attribution's super hard. I just joined a company as an advisor. They're like really deep in attribution. And to me, I'm like, finally, marketing can put their money where their mouth is. They can prove it and show me that they actually like affected this sales process, or that they affected this prospect. And so there is no other role on earth, maybe CEO, where you are measured so directly on like KPIs and just numbers. And if you miss them, you're gone. And that's just like that's how it works. marketing is like, oh, like, macroeconomic forces and like, things just took a little bit longer and everyone's like, oh yeah, you know how it goes, marketing and stuff. If that happens in sales, you miss your quarter. Oh, it'll be in like next year or whatever. They're like, yeah, and you won't be in tomorrow. So like, see ya. That's my issue with marketing.
I mentioned marketing who gets charged.
Good marketing is the best. It's the best.
But you have a really good point too, because during the pandemic, there were some companies that would turn off marketing. Like, so Airbnb famously just shut down marketing and then revenue stayed
so crazy
going up. So it's like you turn off, $600 million worth of spend and there's no effect to revenue. And then it makes you question, like, why do we have a 300 person marketing organization when we can take it to zero in some respects and basically not see the effect of it? And then you start thinking like, wait a second, why do we need all these people? What are they doing when really, there's some companies in some situations where you don't need such a large marketing spend or organization.
Totally. I mean, and obviously it's like, it's industry specific and it's like product specific. And there's a lot of like, again, I mean, with all these things, like there's a ton of nuance to it. I mean, what do you guys do? You guys have a marketing person, I'm sure, or like you do some form of marketing.
We do some. Yeah.
Oh my God. It's
This is
marketer here.
Yeah. Well, we do marketing, sales. Yeah. So we can't talk shit about marketing because we are marketing. So it would be like marketing sucks. And then it's like sales sucks. It's like actually just us.
We're marketing right now.
He's talking to himself.
Yeah. So just for background, we are seed stage. So we just raised like a $2.4 million round. We have 20 people
going to
Miami. We're going to live it up. And so basically we haven't invested in a lot of marketing because we've seen our dollars at our stage go further in like attending conferences and events. It sounds so weird because it's not like your typical like startup scalable thing, but a lot of our deals are still done in person.
I believe that. I absolutely believe that. And that's where I was like, when I'm thinking about your salesperson, like they got to be good in person.
Yeah.
Like you don't need a robot. Like you need a human. You need a human being.
We may attend 40 events next year, and we anticipate that half of our new revenue will be from events. And so we just need that like charmer that's just very good in person. We'll go up to people at like the cocktail hour and strike up conversation. That's what we have Connor for. Yeah. We just set her loose.
I literally met a lady in Vegas at a conference last week, and she like wants to send 3,000 people on a trip. And for us, 3,000, that's a gigantic fucking group. And she was like, I don't work with people she said, I don't work with people I don't meet in person. So, there's still people out there like that.
All right. She sells allegedly. Yeah. She turns out she sells.
Yeah. And I actually have a thesis too, that there's going to be like an aversion or like the other side of the coin of AI, where AI is going to take care of so much stuff. And I think that sometimes people are going to be sour because it's going to lead to people losing their jobs, and people are going to have friends and family losing their jobs. Yep. And I think that there's going to be a reaction to people that are like, fuck this. We're going to deal with people who we know and we have met in person and we can trust, because my uncle got laid off because his company laid off a third of their workforce and yada, yada, yada. Yeah. And I actually think it's going to come back around, and it's going to be like a focus on face-to-face is going to be even maybe more prevalent.
Yes, I completely agree with that. I think and people are like, oh, salespeople are going to get replaced by AI. And like, no. I think there will be a consolidation. I think SDRs are at risk. I think these chatbots are so good that you can get on your website. It's more people will come in more ready to buy than they ever have. You're not going to need as much outbound. Again, this is kind of where I get to the marketing thing. It's like, if you have something super technical, those questions can all be answered by a chatbot, and they can get answered even better, even better, even better. And so when they finally buy it, no one's going to spend $10 million without talking to a human to confirm like why I am dropping a shit. I put that threshold at like 50K.
That's
like
a good point.
Very few people are even going to like actual transact more than 50K without having some human on the other side. Like, this is what you should buy. This is going to work. So I totally agree with you. I think there also will just be the anti-AI people who are like hurt by it and, just averse to it for X and Y reason. That'll still happen. But I still think the in-person thing will matter a ton.
Yeah.
It's just not as many sales monkeys,
Do you think, so you think like the manpower is going to stay lower to run like big companies?
Yes, I do. a lot of things are going to, I'm worried from like a writing standpoint. I mean, we're looking at Hollywood, like Writers Guild strike right now. And I think a lot of that is because we just saw The Weeknd and Drake come out with a fake song because of AI, and they didn't come out, some DJ like mixed it up with AI, and everyone's
how crazy is that?
Is it
I heard
sick?
It's the
good.
Kanye one is good.
I haven't heard the Kanye one. The Drake and Weeknd one, it just sounds
sick.
like a generic Drake and Weeknd, but it's like good, where I'm like, holy shit, like I would not know if this was fake.
Look up the Kanye one.
That was, yeah. I mean, I'll definitely look that up. I just think even art is at risk. It's actually like the more manual, the more trade skills that are going to be okay, than like a lot of these high skill workers. Analysts are going to be wiped out. Wall Street is going to consolidate in a massive way. It's going to be a crazy next 10 years.
Yeah, I think that engineers will have a big consolidation too, because it's getting so good at writing code. I just saw this tweet the other day where a founder reached out to an engineer and was like, "Hey, I just raised like a pre-seed round. We're looking for some engineers." And the engineer wrote back, "I just looked you up on Crunchbase, and my starting salary is more than your entire seed round." And he saved, he screenshotted it. And I know this founder is just waiting for another 5 years of like, oh yeah, you used to make $600,000 as an engineer.
Yep.
Not anymore because it's just, there's going to be a race to the bottom for engineering talent, I would think. So it's like, you may be able to run your whole company on 8 to 20 engineers. You don't need 200 and 300, which is going to be crazy.
Right. And they don't even necessarily need to be super technical. There are people who are just writing it, like you said, against ChatGPT. They're like, they'll put this in there, they'll spit it out. There might be an issue. They're like, they just tweak it. They're like, all right, now make it do this, now do this. And they are just basically working with a ChatGPT bot to build something. They just keep adjusting the inputs. And so, you don't need to be as technical as folks are now or were before. So I agree. It's going to be a massive consolidation. I don't know what's going to happen. Art's getting fucked too. The AI generative art is crazy good.
So good.
So I don't know. Someone said, and I definitely agree with this. They're like, everyone's overestimating the impact of AI in the next 2 years and just underestimate it in the next 10. Yeah. It's going to be wild in the next 10.
That's fair.
I'm kind of scared, to be honest.
I'm a little scared too. I'm going to be one of those cranky boomers. Just like, I remember back when I just write shit with my hand.
Remember a phone booth? I know.
Yeah, exactly. And the AIs are going to be talking to each other, selling, and then the humans are going to come in and be like, all right, do they agree on a deal? Like, it's very weird. Did the robots agree?
Oh my gosh. I know. And AI plus even just working remote, like from COVID, not including AI. It's like, what are your thoughts on how is working remote impacting the competitiveness of hiring salespeople? Because I feel like one job gets posted and then there's 200 applicants in a day,
Yeah. Remote has definitely changed the game in a huge way. It's made companies, it's given the companies the ability to hire cheaper labor, which is good in some ways. But from a sales perspective, I personally don't know how, if I was at Oracle right now, new, 23, 24 years old, I don't know how I'd be able to handle the sales life alone. I needed my team there. I needed people to be like, yo, Jess, I just got absolutely eviscerated on this call. This dude just said this, and this. What am I gonna do in my apartment alone? I'm not gonna I'm too sad. I need my friends to commiserate with. I need the buzz of the sales floor and the energy of people around me to do such a difficult job. So that to me, it's more of a mental health tax on people. I get everyone wants to work remote. I get that. And most jobs, totally, I get it. But in a high stress, high competitive environment like sales, I don't know how these young SDRs are just grinding out 300 dials alone in their shitty little apartments in in Manhattan.
I know. Kenny and I actually 2-3 days a week for we have to work together, not for any reason, but just brainstorming. You just come up with things when you're around other people and talk in person.
Totally.
For sure.
The tribal knowledge gets missed. It's probably MBA CEO Ross is yes, I would mandate people back to the office, but employee, average dude Ross is fuck that. That sucks. I don't want to go do that. I can get my work done at home. I definitely see the trade-off. I absolutely see the trade-off. And I understand why leadership teams want people to be around. just you're focused and like the random shit that people talk about in the hallways at lunch. And like, there is value in that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I wouldn't apply for that job.
And just like getting to know your coworkers. Like it's kind of crazy. We had a situation at our last, like a situation made it sound all scary.
Yeah. I was like, ooh,
a fucking situation.
Yeah, we got one of those.
I was just going to say two of the people on our team, they've been working together for like 20 years, never met each other. Like they show up to our summit and they're like, oh my God, like hugging each other. And they've talked on the phone for thousands and thousands of hours. And it's just like, it's kind of crazy. It's kind of weird.
It is. It is weird. Like, you know, COVID just accelerated what was going to happen. You know, this was always going to be this way. We
live in a simulation.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, at this point, it's just a Truman Show. Just run it back every day.
It's like getting crazier faster too.
Craziest shit anyone's ever said to you on a sales call.
Oh my God.
Do you have like a specific one that haunts you like before you go to bed at night or?
No, it's all like funny to me. I mean, it's all for everything that hurts me. I just try to make fun of it. That's why I do what I do. I'm just constantly hurt. So yeah, I'm constantly crying on the inside. I go to a lot of therapy. I don't have one that like, I have one that kind of sticks out. I ended up closing it because she was saying I was like, Lori, you're being a bitch right now. She goes, I know I'm being a bitch. Like I get people like you fired all the fucking time. We were screaming. I went to a conference room and like, I mean, it was just a bunch of profanities. Like she was like, you don't even know how to send a calendar invite. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like you never accepted it. Like it's just like the dumbest shit. And there's like a crowd like in front of me watching me through this glass. And this was over, no joke, a fucking $6,000 deal. A $6,000 deal. And she was trying to get me to also sell her our free product so she could upsell her client because she was kind of like being a middle woman, so to speak. And I was like, that's bullshit. Like, you're not going to sell them a product that is free. Like, I'll tell them it's free. And so we just like got in. Anyway, she spent $6,000.
Fucking Lori, dude.
Fucking Lori. That was like the most legendary one. I was like, people were just like this. It was like, you know, the clown would walk out like, let's fucking go. But she was such a bitch to our customer success team. We ended up firing her as a client. She just like was the same at all time. Like she was just not worth $6,000. Like, you know, if she's like $1 million client, fine, we'll work with it. But oh my God, it
wasn't just you.
Nightmare.
That's good.
It wasn't just me. No. Oh, come on. I'm a good guy.
Did you close the deal pre or post pre-workout? Like, did you?
Oh, I was post. Absolutely. Post workout, you know, little Adderall, a little coffee. It was a Thursday.
Wait, when you drink pre-workout, for the listeners, he's chugging pre-workout right now. Are you going to work out or do you do it for work? Okay.
No. I mean, if you can't tell, I mean, kind of a specimen, but like, you know, there are a few days a week where I'll drink it and like things get too busy and I mix it up because I go on the coffee like train for a really long time. And then it's like, all right, I need to take a break from coffee for like a couple of weeks, switch back to the pre-workout, you know, cause it's just like, just coffee on coffee in this house, just so much coffee. And you know, I'll drink that before I go work out anyway. So it's more of just like a mix it up. Keep the body guessing. You know?
I just had to ask because I drink it like every day at 6 a.m. So it's not a roast. No. There will be days where I don't work out, but no, I do intend to work out. I mean, I'm golfing today too. You know, I got to be.
Ooh,
nice.
I got shit
I just
to do
learned
today.
how to golf, didn't I, Kenny?
It's the best.
You didn't learn how to golf. You played top golf. They're not the same.
But I fucking crushed it.
Yeah, there's some elements. You swing golf, I suppose.
I cannot wait.
Florida.
Yeah.
Okay.
So golf all year round.
Yeah,
I live next to where Tiger Woods used to play golf in Isleworth when he was like Tiger Woods. Yeah, Tiger Woods. Yeah. So I live in like golf heaven, can play 12 months a year. It's kind of sick.
God, that's nice. We can play year round here, but like we have like a damp season where just like everything's kind of muddy.
Are you playing anywhere nice or is it like a local track?
Yeah, it's pretty nice as far as local track goes. It's called Presidio. It's like 5 blocks from me, Presidio Golf Course. It is a public course, but it's pretty nice. I got to play Seminole out your way.
Oh, how'd you get on that?
My grandpa knows a guy who knows a bunch of guys, and I met Luke Bryan there randomly. Didn't know it was Luke Bryan.
Oh shit! No way.
Same thing
He
happened.
introduced himself as Luke Bryan in my head. I'm like, yeah, like fucking Luke Bryan. Like who says their first and last name? I was like, what? Just because you have like the same name as this dude?
What a loser.
He was a dumpy looking guy. Like, and I was like, then he left. We were broing out, you know. And then I asked the attendant. I was like, was that actually like Luke Bryan? Luke Bryan? He's like, oh yeah. And I was like,
Oh yeah.
I would have handled that differently, probably. but yeah, you know, we rode down there, and that was a very cool course. That was also like the most stressed I've ever been playing golf in my life. Like nobody there fucks up. Nobody there hits a bad shot.
That's
and
crazy.
so I'm like shaking. I'm like shaking in the tee box. So
The same.
I'm nervous.
I like how funny
yeah.
Luke Bryan's story too. I used to work at TPC Sawgrass as a golf cart girl, and I like
that's a good salesperson right there.
That's why I got her.
My strategy is like, okay, men on the golf course love to be roasted, right? So I like pull up and I'm like, oh, nobody saw that. It was like a terrible shot. Yeah. This guy asked for a drink. Same thing. I'm kind of like, who the fuck is this guy? All of his like posse's around, like he's terrible at golf. I was like, what is the deal? And then I drive away and all the cart girls were like, you're so lucky that you just got to meet Luke Bryan. And I was like, who?
Yeah, exactly. I was like, who? Like, I don't listen to his music, but you know, he's a nice guy, you know?
Yeah. I was just
people
like,
that just want to be treated normally, you know? They just want to they prefer it when people don't know who they are. I'm pretty sure.
I nailed it. I was like, you suck at golf. Yeah.
yeah. Here's your Long Island iced teas. Hey, let me know.
Come golf anytime with Grandpa Corp.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know if I'll be getting invited back anytime soon, or if he will either. We'll see. I was in Orlando like a month and a half ago.
Did you just love it?
Just for fun or no?
I was speaking there. I was at Rosen Shingle Creek. It was not a nice place. It was a place. It was like a conference, just factory.
Yeah, a
40
huge conference
halls, like all the restaurants in this one building. The carpets were like a little sticky. You know, it was a little like, I was like, dang, this place used to be the shit like in the 80s. Like people used to go here and party and get weird, like corporate shit here. But I was like, now that it's like 2020s, it's a little.
Orlando can get weird. It can.
Yes, it can. Can confirm it got weird.
Wait, weird good or weird bad in Orlando?
I'm a weird good kind of person, but like it definitely can get weird bad there. I like weird shit.
It depends who you're with.
Yeah, exactly. Depends who's gonna find out.
Next time you let us know, and we'll have margaritas and go ride roller coasters at Universal or something.
Sounds great. That's what I think of Orlando about. Roller coasters, margaritas.
Speaking of getting drunk, I wanted to know, like, why? It's a good hook. Why are sales team cultures known to be just like a bunch of like awesome drunk idiots that always get in trouble with HR, but product and marketing kind of sucks?
Yeah, well, someone's got to be the adult, and it's not going to be sales. You know, I think it's just like who's the demographic that ends up in sales. Like, so few salespeople are like, you know, the valedictorian of the class, right? Like, I was not a valedictorian. Like, yes, I eventually got intellectually curious and studied really hard so I could get into Stanford, but I was the only salesperson there across both. Mm-hmm. Nobody knows how to sell. Not a single person there was in sales at any point, even like sniff sales, which is great now that I'm gone because everyone's like, hey, I need to learn how to sell. Who are you going to go to? The only person you know who ever sold in your life, they end up coming to me. So I think sales is a lot. I mean, a lot of it's social, right? People who are in like sororities, frats, sports, like it just lends itself well to also handling adversity. And I think you get those kind of people, they tend to party, they tend to be social. And that's just like, it ends up working out that way.
What were you like in school? What was like high school corp like?
Oh, loser alert. No, I was, how do you say this without being a dick? I was like the baseball star of our school, but I also was like a very quiet kid. I like was not a party kid. I would rather sit cross-legged and like play World of Warcraft like at night. Like
an
that's
athletic nerd.
Yeah, sure. We'll call it that. But I was like, also, I went to one of those very elite private high schools where I felt very stupid. And so it was a very very depressing time for me where it was like, everybody studied super hard. Everybody like cared about school. You know, there's 100 kids in my class and, you know, 20 of them went Ivy League. And so they rank you, right? And I'm like ranked towards the bottom, which like in the grand scheme of life, like I'm doing great. But what your narrow lens looks like is, you know, was a very tough thing for me. And so that's where like the funny wit kind of thing came out for me, is because I was just like, I got to be self-deprecating. Like the only way I can feel okay here, like just throw my insecurities out like publicly, but do it in like a self-deprecating way. That's like, oh, that's so accessible and cool of him. You know, that was like my defense, was to hurt myself before anyone else could hurt me.
Genius.
All these things I was like in my head, you know? So that's mostly what I did. I wasn't like cool until like junior to senior year, kind of like transition. I was like, oh, like the imposter syndrome finally started to kind of dissipate a little bit.
And now you're just the coolest sales guy alive. Fucking sick,
I still like
dude.
to sit cross-legged and play video games. I mean, literally, you can't see it, but there's a PlayStation right behind me. I built my computer. I've got this whole setup here, and you know, I don't paint anymore, but I paint like Warhammer action figures and shit. I do loser stuff. I play Dungeons and Dragons still. Yeah, I like nerdy shit. I don't know.
Yeah, wait. Speaking of your sick setup behind you, do you have a podcast?
What makes you say that? No, so this got it on Etsy. Turns out 3 feet in diameter is gigantic. I didn't realize that. It's like how fucking huge this thing is. It takes up the whole wall.
It is huge.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. But that is actually, so I do a lot of speaking. Like through the pandemic, I was doing a ton of speaking, but it was a lot virtual. Most of it was virtual. Obviously, it was shut down. So this was like kind of the look people would get. I mean, I have shoes all over the ground and equipment all over the ground, and it smells a lot like pot in here. I don't know why. I think someone smelled it yesterday. I don't know what happened, but yeah, this is for the speaking thing. I have a sadness light on the wall over there, neon light, nice. Which I may end up turning this around. I might rework the room. Really kind of thinking about it right now. But yeah, I do. The short answer, yes, I have a podcast, but it's part of. I don't run it, but it's called Beyond Quota. We basically interview people who were in sales, but like kind of got out, and like, what do they think about sales now? Or they've like become CROs or CEOs, or just like left the industry altogether. And like, how did sales? It's called Beyond Quota, and I do it with the CEO of Scratchpad.
Oh,
I'm like the color commentator. Like I say the offensive, like weird off color shit, and he's just like, I'm a startup founder who has 30 million in funding, and I need to be like serious. So it kind of works. You know?
Always playing with fire there too, because it's like,
oh, they edit out half the shit I say. they edit out so much of what I say, but you know, I feel like a lot of these people just want to have conversations that aren't like, you know, always how did you build your startup? Like how did you get to where you are? They want to like talk about real shit, you know, their life. We had this CRO of a company called Vanta. She was the first female professional gamer. Her like gamer tag is Kill Creek. She challenged the dude who like invented Quake and beat him in a tournament, then married him after he talked a bunch of shit, had a kid, and then divorced him. Huge power play. Huge power play. Guy said all this misogynistic shit. Then she married him. I was like, okay, that's a weird way to go about it. And then she fucking dumped him. And you know, like,
dude, that's a sick story. Like,
yeah, that's a sick story. Stevie Case is her name. She's a legend, and now she's a CRO.
Kill Creek needs to be like a heavy metal band immediately. I love that.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
good.
So she's
they should make like a statue for her, and at the base should just be like the story that you just said. Like, here stands I forget her name, Kill Creek. Or whatever it was. She beat this guy, she married him, had his kid, and then divorced his ass. Yeah. And then that's the statue.
She saw, she conquered. You know, like that's the tagline right there. You know?
Statue's her holding a baby with like flames. I love this.
Yeah, a baby with like typing too, just like wearing her gamer headset.
Oh my God. Could you imagine? Honestly, if we could get that made and just get that statue made, put in like Washington, DC, and then have hidden cameras just like watching little kids like read this and like looking at their chaperone or their mom, be like,
yeah, is this God? It's a statue of God, little boy. Yes. Yeah.
And he's been out here pranking lately. So he's got pranks on the brain.
You've been pranking lately?
Yeah, this guy fucking pranks me hard.
I kind of convinced Connor Ann that she was meeting John Cena in a hotel room, and then she opened the door, and it was me and my coworkers. So
well, you're going to see him anyway. So you know, he's here. You just can't see him. It's fine.
I started calling myself Con Cena. It was fucking terrible.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, that's how you erode trust quickly.
I mean,
she never believes anything that I say now. It's kind of a problem.
The eternal skeptic. It's good for you.
Yeah. Hey, Ross, how did you get into content creation? I was trying to go back to the beginning of your TikTok, and I got back to like 2019. How did you start that whole thing?
Yeah. So TikTok, I was kind of a boomer about it. I was, fuck these kids. I don't want to do TikTok. It's dumb. So I was late to the game on TikTok, but I started on Vine back in the day, like way back. Stuff. Yeah, you can't even see my original videos anymore. Actually, they're probably at the bottom of Instagram. You could go back and look. There's 6 seconds. Wow, it's a different guy. I promise. Had to delete some of those, but 2014 is when I started.
Wow.
While I was still working. It just didn't become full time for me until 2020 when I graduated, and I was like, I don't want to go back into a corporate job. So it's always been like nights and weekends. I mean, it's still nights and weekends, but I can also do it during days too, which is great. So 2014 on Vine, then Instagram had 15-second videos. I was like, sick. I can make 2 jokes instead of 1. And then it had 1 minute. And then like, it just kind of scaled with the platforms in terms of what I could write. And
then what is your favorite? Are you a TikTok guy, Instagram? What's your platform of choice these days? Shorts?
Yeah. No, it's annoying. I'm like, my entire social media career, I've been fighting like what the algorithms want. So I've been doing short form for a long time, and nobody wanted short form for YouTube was like, just give us your longest videos. We want people to stay on the platform, blah, 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 blah. So like all my videos got no play, just 6 seconds, 15 seconds. And then I've slowly gotten like longer and longer. And then YouTube's like, you know what? Fuck that. Let's do shorts now. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like I've been working up trying to do a show. Like I want to write TV. I want to write longer form stuff. Like that's what I've been building towards. And then you flip it on me and now you want shorts. So, I mean, the content creation thing has been, my favorite has been Instagram just because it's where I've been most successful. I think TikTok is cancer. But I think it's also great for democratizing content and allowing people to experiment and like do low effort stuff and have it do well. What's frustrating for me is like, I'll write a full on sketch that has like, clever jokes and like production value. And then someone will be just like lip sync to Taylor Swift and like millions of views. And I'm
is annoying.
Why do I try? Like, why do I try to make like stuff?
I hate TikTok.
So, TikTok is a dark place. And if it got banned, it would hurt me monetarily, but I would be okay with it.
The algorithm hates me. I think that's my problem. I open it up and I'm like, why are there just 16-year-old boys dancing? Like, this isn't.
Well, yeah, for me, it's 16-year-old girls dancing. And I'm like, you will look 25 and I am
scared. I'm a pervert.
Yeah. How does it know? It is terrifying though. Like the algorithm is, I mean, from like a political standpoint, wildly disturbing, and like a addiction standpoint, wildly disturbing. But they figured something out. And like, unfortunately, that's where we're going. Everything's algorithmic. Everything's like machine learning, and everything's just like hitting us in subconscious ways. That is terrifying. So I use TikTok because I have to. And I also think TikTok, again, is good for me, like trying some new weird shit. And if it does well on TikTok, I'm like, all right, it's low effort. But if it does well on Instagram, like I don't care. So then I'll bring it over to Instagram, and usually it'll do, better than I would have thought, because I'm like, this is low effort. But TikTok was like the sandbox to try.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, it's because
we've been like testing with doing, stuff for travel nerds. It's like, okay, we post something that took us 3 seconds to make on YouTube Shorts and it gets 6,000 views. We post the exact same video on TikTok. It gets 7 views. And then it's just so fucking weird. So weird. And then the stuff you work really hard on gets like no views. And the thing you made in 2 seconds, it's like, there's no strategy.
It's very discouraging. I will say that. It's very discouraging. And it's just like, and unfortunately just promotes a quantity over quality thing, which has always been annoying to me. That's always bothers me, because I'm like, I want to hit every time. I want to have like a certain standard, but the platforms don't reward you. And if like you're trying to grow, you need to just like throw shit out there. And at least with TikTok, your followers aren't always seeing your stuff. Like that's the best part, is you can go viral without followers. You post something shitty on Instagram, you lose followers. Like that's just, there's a huge cost there. Well, that's why TikTok is great. Just like, you know, if it decides, it sucks in that it can decide good content is bad and no one will see it. But a lot of times if you post bad content, like no one sees it, so no one cares anyway.
Yeah.
So like, you know, there's no cost to you. There's much more cost for me on LinkedIn or Instagram.
The thing that's consistent is just thirst traps.
Yep.
Have you ever thought, you know, maybe?
Oh, yes. Have I thought? I mean, I only have OnlyFans up on this over here. I'm just researching. I'm just looking.
Assless
I'm just trying to see. Yeah. Just butt pics for me, probably.
Yeah, that's where all of this ends. It's like I wrote, you know, thousands of hours worth of good jokes and sketches, and it all ends for Corp and OnlyFans.
Yes, literally. That's exactly how I see this going. That's why I tell people, I'm like, I'm probably going to retire to OnlyFans here pretty soon and just call it a career. I've had a good run.
Still teach sales, just naked. Instead of birthday cameos.
And serious in assless chaps. I just teach sales. Every time I turn to the whiteboard.
That's so funny.
That's the my
gosh.
Hey, Corp, let's actually talk season 2 for Sales Are Dope.
God willing.
I won't. Oh, it's going to happen.
It'll happen.
This is getting picked up. Yeah. It's just
too good.
Well, first of all, I was checking out the views this morning and like, you're like kind of hitting it, right? I think episode 1 was like 70, right?
Yeah.
Do I have that right?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. 70.
Is that under or like
78.
doing pretty good for what you were expecting?
78. Huh.
It's never enough, right? Like it's never enough. Yeah. Because there is no one has said, HBO hasn't been like, well, if you get to that 100K mark, we'll talk to you. No one says that. Like, you know, my parents will be like, it's not about, you know, all the eyes, it's the right eyes, right? Like it's that type of thing. And I don't know. You always want what you don't have, you know. Played like lowest level minor league baseball is like I wanted to like play Major League Baseball. Major League guys like I wanted to last for 10 years instead of 5. Like it doesn't matter where you are. You just want a little bit more than that. I just want it to have a chance. That's it. That's all I want. Like I know, and you guys are very sweet. Like I know it's got shortcomings. I know there's like issues there. Like when I watched it the night before, I was like ready to cancel the premiere. I was like,
what?
This is
That's
so
crazy.
But I'm so deep in it, right? Like I'm like feeling the rhythm of it. I'm like, oh, this is like, oh, there's a dick joke in the first 45 seconds. Well, I can't wait to be written off by every marketer, you know, every Bay Area marketer, like in the first 45 seconds because I made a crass dick joke.
I think people are sick of that though. People are sick of the over-censored shit because we all still think that's funny.
The real ones are. Yeah, totally. The real ones are. But you know, it's hard to get Hollywood to take me seriously. That's just the reality. Like I'm having trouble even. I have a rep, but I don't have an agent. Like I can't even get it. I can't get an agent. I'm like, well, that's
no way.
Silly.
That's
kind of
crazy.
Well, it's like I can make them enough money. They'd be fine.
Are you trying to do that and like get an agent in like California or in like on the East Coast?
I don't give a shit where they are. Like we're remote now. We talked about this. I don't care where they are. I just need an advocate. That's the thing. I like in the same way you guys need to hire like a hungry junior salesperson. I need a hungry junior agent, like who just wants to go grind. I'm like, I have a rep and he's a great dude and he came from software sales, but like he reps A-list, like reality people, like at a A-list firm. And like, I'm worthless to them. And I know that he's just my only kind of option at the moment. So that's what I'm trying to figure out. I'm like, what do I need to do to prove to someone that like, there's something more here? I don't necessarily want to be corporate bro for forever. Like I don't. Corporate bro at 45, 50 is going to be creepy bro. And we need to be something different at that point, you know?
Yeah.
I want to write, I want to act, I want to do comedy.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do stand-up necessarily, but like
I was going to ask that. Yeah, because I could see that you would crush. Yeah.
I do a lot of like corporate stand-up, we'll call it, but it's more, I don't have a routine. I write, I research the companies, I get information, inside information, and I just roast people. And I have like kind of a motivational piece to it, but it doesn't scale, you know, like I can't just rip out one of these a night. I probably do 10 in person a year and like 20 virtual. Cause at least virtual, I can read off my screen if I need to. So it's also highly stressful for me. Like I'm actually a huge introvert. Like it just eats me alive.
What?
Like I finally got to sleep last night. I just came back from Arizona, Tucson. Ooh, lovely this time of year. And I was not sleeping for the last like 2 weeks for 15 minutes on stage. So this shit works me up. That's why I do go to therapy. There's a lot of mental like tax in this game for me.
Does your therapist call you Ross or Corp?
He calls me Ross. I don't even know if he watches my stuff.
So funny.
He asked if he could watch the trailer, and I was like, yeah, absolutely. I was like, Kyle, I expect you. Oh, his name's Kyle too. God damn it, of course it is. But like, my rep's name is Chad. I know. What am I surrounding myself with? And it's like, yeah, it's awful. But yeah, there's just like a lot. We could spend an hour and a half on just like the social, like the impact, the mental tax of social media and like being a more public figure. It just kind of sucks a lot. But
yeah,
there's a lot of great parts too. But there is like, in the same way I go to the gym 5 days a week, like I have to go to therapy at least once a week. It's just like, to maintain and be okay.
Yeah.
Like I have to do it.
To be nice.
It's a responsible thing to do.
That's why I go to the gym, to be a nice person.
Yeah. Right. If I don't go work out, I get depressed and angry and snippy.
Yeah. Real bitchy over here. Yeah.
Yeah. That's just how it is.
Okay, you know? Kenny, do you have any more like official questions? Because I kind of want to ask him a few random fucking questions.
All right, I want to know what's on the board for the direction of season 2. Because I was thinking like, I don't want to give it away, but I was thinking, are there going to be more characters that come in? Is there going to be like a rival startup that starts to copy you guys and it brings you guys together? What are you thinking here?
That's exactly what it is. We had to write them out of season 1 because we couldn't afford. Again, like Connor had said, it's all money, right? Like we had a whole marketing team we wanted to bring in. We had like a sales ops. We had a whole competitor where Raj like has an ultimate rivalry with this competitor. We had this whole like other storyline.
Yeah, Raj is great. When he pops off,
he's my business school roommate. That's how I know him. Like,
cute.
Yeah, he's my business school roommate. Yeah. But so there's a few directions we're thinking about. One is like, we kind of set it up to what's the last 2 weeks of the quarter look like. To can they beat the East team? Can they like hit their quota and make that happen? We were recently kicking around answering that question just in the first episode and starting with like a whole new kind of story where a lot of TV shows that like episode 1 of the second season or the new season will be almost like a finale to wrap up the previous season. So we're thinking about that, but let's say we're not doing that. What it really is going to be is the race to the end. Corp and Raj have to go on site. Turns out the decision makers out of the office at a funeral. So Corp and Raj end up like funeral crashing and trying to like slam
close at the funeral.
Close at the funeral. Like
I fucking love
first
that.
scene of the second season is Corp and Travis get absolutely owned by some Girl Scouts. I've been wanting to write a Girl Scout scene for so many years, which honestly I could be a porn director or myself saying that. It's really fucked up to go ask like a Girl Scouts like, hey, because I want to do this just for my own like social stuff. Going up to someone's like, mom and be like, hey, can I like shoot a video with your daughters? Like they're 8 years old. I'm like, there's no good way to do this. So if I can ever write a scene, it's going to have to be like official. We cast some like child actors who are willing to swear. And like, I think they're the best salespeople on earth. And so there's like a whole scene of this little girl just bullying them. That's the opening scene. And then it ends with Corp and Raj like trying to close the deal at a funeral. That's like kind
so
of
sick.
I love
a
it.
rough idea at the moment. So
I'm in for season 2. If we could do it, if I could like ask for anything, it's just like, give this man a season 2. Let's get him a season 2.
I need $2 million.
Just slide him a few minutes. There's so much bullshit that's being made. Like I turn on Netflix and it's like the same. It's like the same dating show, just done like 10 or 20 different times. I'm like, let me see some original content. And yours is there's no one that's done a show about sales. Come on, like this needs to exist. This needs to exist in the world for sure.
Well,
and it's like easy to understand. Like I learned a lot.
That's what I'm saying.
It.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, you can learn from this, but I think the other piece is they just don't think sales they think it's niche. And I'm like, there's 40 million salespeople in this world. Like 40 million. If we got 2 million people watch this, like that's a success by every metric. So I think they don't realize, and what I learned, and I didn't know at first, was like when I started this, obviously the intent was not to be like famous content creator, like salesperson, weird business niche guy. It was catharsis because sales was really hard. And it turned out it didn't matter whether you sold in the US, which industry, which product, I've gotten to speak to teams in Eastern Europe, like LATAM, like across Europe, Australia. They all think their marketing team sucks. They all think their quota is too high and they all think their product's broken. Like it's universal. And I think until you're in it, you like live the life, be in our world, you don't know that. And so Hollywood doesn't know that at all. Hollywood wants to be Silicon Valley. They don't know how. And Silicon Valley wants to be Hollywood and they don't know how. And it's just like weird. Everybody like wants to every actor's starting a fund, and every VC wants to be on a TV show. So
yeah, I went to San Francisco recently. Is it, my experience was like what they say. I was like at the bar and everybody's just talking about raising capital. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? It's such a bizarre place. Nowhere like it.
Where were you in the city? Do you remember like what part of the city? Were you in the marina? Were you downtown, like Union Square?
The financial?
Yeah. Yeah. We got to get you out of there where locals hang out. Yeah. You're where the stereotype exists. Well, like if you're talking homeless people and like shitty areas and so forth. Yeah. That's like the side of the city that I get why everyone says that if you don't live here, because that's where everybody who doesn't live here goes there. And it's like, why? What are you doing?
The homeless people were vocal as well. They're like
aggressive.
Yeah. They were yelling. They got shit to say.
Yeah.
I know.
I mean,
this lady was like, why God? Like looking me in the eyes. I was like, oh my God.
And I was
she
like,
thinks I'm God.
I agree to agree. Why God? For real. She has a point. She has a point.
Same girl.
But it's weird. It is weird. There's a lot of problems in San Francisco. It's a little over, but it's not Somalia like everyone makes it out to be, but it's, it's got its problems for sure, but it's got tech, it's got my people here. And so for now I'll be here unless LA calls, in which case I would suffer through LA. I don't really like LA, but I'd go.
Yeah.
So,
if you have to,
if I had to, if there was a reason to go, I mean, I go there all the time anyway. I can hop on a flight 45 minutes and then fly back the same day.
Yeah. Easy.
When a streaming service picks up the show, you might have to move there, but
well, if you know anyone, who knows anyone, feel free to send it their way. And then they'll be like, you can't unsolicited pitches. You need an agent. Okay, great. All right.
And you can't get an agent unless someone refers you.
Yeah. It's a whole chicken egg thing. And it's just,
but I'm looking for a new one too right now. So if I find anybody nice and interesting.
A little 2-for-1 deal. They get Connor and Corp.
Deal.
My God.
I'm just saying. Yeah.
It's hard because they're like what I just said. They're like, well, we won't talk to you unless somebody refers you. But people are kind of hesitant to refer you because in a way you're like just another person to the roster and they can only have so many people and they'll kick someone off. And it's fucking hard. Yeah.
It's hard. And that's like the whole hope was, make yourself undeniable, right? Like make something. And then it's like, okay, well now they're not willing to watch it. They're not willing to sit down for 9 minutes and watch the first episode. So
yeah, you have an epic reel. Like that's your leg up.
It's
amazing.
For sure. But again, you're competing for time in eyes. Yeah. So I get it. It's a hard game.
It's such a hard industry.
It's a hard game to play.
Travel nerds. What are you a nerd about? Not sales.
So much stuff. I mean, video games and like fantasy stuff. Like I'm reading The Expanse right now, which is like a sci-fi 11 book. They're like 700 pages. Reading through that. I painted Warhammer models for a long time, so I like the Dungeons and Dragons. I played Gloomhaven, which is a great board game. It's like D&D light, and I'm a huge video game nerd.
Those are the only books I read. Just
I want to see a painting.
Give me 2 seconds.
Yeah, please.
I mean, I'm so glad you asked. God,
thank you.
No one ever
show me a painting.
That's actually really fucking cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's see a painting.
So this is they're called Empire. They're called the Empire. So these little guys are like.
Wait, put it closer.
I have a whole like battalion of. Wait,
you painted that?
Yeah, I fucking painted that. I painted this guy too.
What?
Okay, that's actually good as shit though. Not that I doubted you.
That's crazy.
Yeah, well, it's fine. I painted a whole like griffin and so forth. So I have like these are old. Dude. These are 10 plus years old.
Paint them and sell them. Painted by Corp.
I know. I just can't get myself. I could sell these. I can't get myself to.
Oh my God! Start up that OnlyFans, and then you'll have a whole little link tree.
Painting. just little tiny brushstrokes. Just waiting for a few people to join.
Dude, there's definitely a niche market for that, for sure.
Yeah. There's a market for everything. Yeah, I mean, you could legitimately get 500 people to pay you $100 a month for pretty much anything. I'm convinced of. So
it's
I mean, assless chaps painting. It could be your thing.
I mean, I am looking for the next pivot. So I mean, if I do it, I'll give you guys a discount, whatever.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. So
you said you wanted to transition out of corporate bro one day. You go from Corp to Chaps. That's your new nickname.
Yeah, just Chaps. Just Chaps. He paints Warhammers naked. He doesn't even talk about being naked. He just answers 2 questions about tech.
Yeah, but if you did that and you were making like $2 million a year, you'd do it.
I wouldn't give a shit. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Cut it in half, I'll do it.
You should try it.
Cut it in half, I'll do it.
Try it out. Okay, why don't you plug everything you got?
Okay. Well, Corporate Bro is what I suppose I'm known as. So I do sketch comedy on all the social platforms. So whatever you got, Corporate Bro, corporate.bro. Sometimes it's Corporate Space Bro, whatever. Most people call me Corp in life.
It's amazing.
I do a lot of stuff on LinkedIn. If you want to break up the monotony on LinkedIn, I like to troll people on LinkedIn. I like to put my content on LinkedIn. And then last but not least, go watch Sales Are Dope. It's on YouTube. Sad Sales Are Dope. Watch them in order. For some reason, YouTube suggests them out of order and people skip around.
I noticed that.
There's a story here. So you should watch it from start to finish. And then tell all your friends and then tell your mom to tell her friends. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
And your cousins and watch it at Christmas.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes. And watch it on every device.
Yeah. Yeah.
Please.
Just run it and leave the house.
Yes. I don't care. You don't even have to use your eyes on it. Just open it, let it play. That's all I ask.
I did that for my acting reel on YouTube.
I'm still doing it. I've got on both these computers. I know these views don't count at some point, but I don't care.
Yeah, it's the thought that counts. Well, you're the bomb. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. And I feel like I learned stuff. I just really appreciate it. And I'm sure a lot of people listening will learn stuff. That was a lot of good advice in there for not only our sales team, but other people too. So come golf, whenever you want. And you're the bomb. So
well, thank you guys. It's an honor to be here.
We are honored.
And
you guys, thanks for listening to the show. You know where to find us at Travel Nerds Pod on social media, and just live by these wise words. Sales are dope. Never, ever stop selling. Later, nerds.